Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Entitled People. And as usual, it's time to check out some more Reddit posts, so let's get into it, friends. Bringing my sister-in-law's wallet to the restaurant when she conveniently always forgets it. I'm a 28-year-old female and my sister-in-law, Amy, 26, always comes to visit from out of town. She stays with us instead of a hotel and always wants to go to expensive restaurants. She always conveniently forgets her wallet, or comes up with some excuses as to why she can't pay her share. She has implied that since I make much more money than her, I should be the one to pay. No, not my husband should pay, but me specifically. I do make a fair amount of money, but not so much that I can treat someone every time they come into town. Nonetheless, in the past, I have just paid the bill and asked her to pay me back. She never has. She had made a reservation at an extremely expensive restaurant last night, and before we left, I made it clear that I wouldn't be paying her bill. This is where I might be the a-hole, and I'll admit I got this move straight from an episode of 2.5 Men. As we were leaving, her and my husband went to the car. I pretended I forgot something and went back inside. I found her wallet sitting right on top of her suitcase. I put it in my purse and we went to the restaurant. When we were done eating, I asked for separate bills. She said no, we need one bill, because she forgot her wallet again. I reached in my purse and said, "This wallet?" She was extremely furious. She said that I should not have grabbed or touched her wallet. Edit. Amy just called me. She saw this post and she yelled at me for bad-mouthing her on the internet. Honestly, I don't care. Amy, hopefully reading all these comments is a wake-up call for you. Parent lost kid's travel document at the airport. So this dad is traveling to Greece with his daughter. Must have been 12 or 13 years old. He comes rushing to the boarding gate all chill like, "Hey, we lost my daughter's ID card. Can you make an announcement?" First of all, this is an airport. We can't randomly make announcements asking if anyone had seen your travel document. That's like making announcements at the mall asking if anyone found $200 on the floor. You cannot travel if you don't have your document with you. Are you kidding me? She is a child. We politely explained that we cannot do that, and they should go look for it while they still have time. We suggested they contact the passport control, as their staff looking around cleaning/monitoring everything 24/7, and that if anything is found unattended, it immediately goes to the police. So the guy started yelling and calling us ridiculous. He left angrily, leaving the girl on her own, unattended, at a gate full of strangers, probably assuming that we would look after her while we work. 10 minutes later, he comes back, demanding we make an announcement again. We explained again that this is not possible for security reasons, and at that point boarding had started. So I had this douche yelling at me for not helping him find his daughter's ID card, which he lost, while I was checking other people's travel documents and trying to contact the aircraft via radio. We could not listen to what the aircraft was asking for because this dude kept asking us for something we told him what he should do with. Eventually, he went to look for it again. Obviously, didn't go to passport control and just came back at the end of the flight. We told him that without an ID card, the girl cannot travel, and thus we will escort them back to the public area to book a new ticket. The girl was crying and sobbing at this point, and he just started yelling at her. Like yelled asking her why she is crying. Then he just told her, "Let's go," and I called for him to stop, because they have to be escorted outside. His very mature response was something in the lines of, "F off, before you piss me off too now." They go to the passport control to try and get out themselves. They can't because they need to be escorted. The girl's ID card was there. Surprise! He comes back running, yelling that they found it, to which I passively told them that the doors are closed, and that it's too late now. Wait for another colleague to escort you outside. I left them there and walked away. Same did my supervisor. I love how this dad not only lost his travel document, yelled at her for it, demanded we take action for him, refusing to follow whatever we suggested to help. We couldn't leave the area, security reasons. Then when we explain what he has to do, he takes off, and then comes back expecting us to just do him a service and help him. Some people shouldn't be parents. I felt so sorry for that girl. Scumbag neighbor broke into my vehicle and stole my stuff, so I returned the favor. I rented a duplex in my early 20s. My neighbor was a wannabe gangster type and made the mistake of breaking into my vehicle one night. I had a small SUV with a removable soft top. So the neighbor figured it would be easy pickings to just peel back the top and help himself to my stereo, amplifiers, CDs, and some other miscellaneous stuff. I discovered the break-in early in the morning after it occurred. I knew for certain who the culprit was. We were not in a heavily populated area and my neighbor was well known for thievery. I waited around for him to leave his place, and when the opportunity arose, I went around the back of the house and looked through the bedroom window to find that, sure enough, my stuff was sitting right on the floor in there. I instinctively tried the window and as luck would have it, the sash went right up. Bingo! I hopped through the window and quickly surveyed the items laying around. It occurred to me that I could get some excellent revenge here if I played it right. So rather than just recoup my stuff and wind up in a fight over it, I borrowed a marker and proceeded to write my name on all my stuff, and also a few choice items of his for good measure. I then climbed back out the window and waited. When he finally came back, I called for some police presence and explained to them how my vehicle got robbed and I knew it was the neighbor due to seeing through the window. We knocked on his door and I can still remember the look on his face, seeing me and the cops standing there. He was not even close to ready for the encounter and almost certainly had drugs on him, so he was very cooperative given the circumstances. I politely explained that I know he broke into my vehicle and I needed him to return my stuff immediately or I will have to press charges. He went and retrieved my things, and I pointed out my name written on them to the officer. I asked about my other stuff while he looked back puzzled and dumbfounded. I rattled off the other couple of choice items of his that I also put my name on earlier. The look on his face while he handed over his stuff to me while the cop was standing there was priceless. Entitled lady tries to force me to leave a public lake. I force her to leave instead. This was a few years ago. I used to work as a detective for a local police department, retired now, and this occurred when I was still employed there. In my life, I've always made every attempt to stay on the right side of the law, as I consider hypocrisy one of the worst traits for an officer of the law to have. I owned a nice ski boat, and in my spare time, I enjoyed taking my family to the local public lake to use the boat and tube, water ski, swim, etc. My kids were ages 12 and 13 at the time, and they really got a kick out of this. They wanted to go nearly every day off I had all summer long. One day we were at the lake, and after a few hours my daughter mentioned she needed to use the bathroom. The lake also had a public swimming beach that had public restrooms, and we would often take bathroom breaks there. We would pull up to the shore well away from the marked swimming area, and we disembarked to use the facilities. One day as we pulled up, I noticed a lady on a lounge chair sunbathing on shore, near where we pulled the boat up. I stayed about 50 feet from her, still about 250 feet away from the swimming area, as I slowly maneuvered the boat towards the shore at idle. As I got close, she stood up and glared at me, while my kids whispered to me that they knew her as a mean lunch lady from their previous elementary school. As I brought the boat up to shore, this woman started yelling very loudly that I was breaking the law. I smiled, and as friendly as I could, I said, "Really? What law?" She continued yelling, saying that I was driving a motorboat in a swimming area. I pointed to the marked swimming area about 250 feet away and asked, "You mean that swimming area?" To which she replied, "Yes." I told her that I never entered or even got close to the swimming area, and that my boat was right now as close as I got. She said the law prohibits boats from pulling up to any shore. How do you get in or out of a boat? Swim? And now she was calling her son, the deputy, who was going to get me in trouble. At this point, I was starting to enjoy this a little, because I thought for sure her son, the deputy, would tell his mom that she couldn't stop me from pulling my boat up to shore. I stood nearby as she calls someone, assuming her son, on her cell. She then reads the person on the phone my boat hole number. It's like a license plate for boats. Then she says with a smirk on her face, "My son is going to order you from the lake, right now." And what happens next shocked me. This woman calls me by my full name, then she hands me the phone. Now I should say what has just happened, is a clear, very clear violation of the law. In my state, it's known as a LEIN violation. Lien violation? I don't know how it's usually read, so I'll just spell it out. Law Enforcement Information Network. And police officers and deputies are very often charged with this crime. I read about it several times a year. If an officer uses his police computer to divulge personal information, Say a deputy tells his mom the name of the registered owner of a boat that she is having a disagreement with, for example. It is a crime. No ifs, ands, or buts. Every cop knows this. So as I take the phone, I immediately say, "Who is this?" "This is Deputy so-and-so of the Blank County Sheriff Office," and I immediately interrupt him and say, "Deputy, do you know what a LEIN violation is?" Several seconds of silence, I say, "Deputy so-and-so, are you still there?" He says, "Yes." So I again say, "Deputy so-and-so, let me ask you again. Do you know what a LEIN violation is?" He stammers out a reply about boat hull numbers and public records or something. I said, "Nope, that's not what a LEIN violation is. Since you don't know, do I need to remind your supervisor what a LEIN violation is?" Again, silence. I then said, "Tell you what, I'm going to hand this phone back to your mother. Then you're going to tell your mother to leave this beach right now. Then we can all forget this ever happened. Understood?" Long silence. "Understood?" He does a long exhale and says, "Yeah, okay." I then hand the phone back to his mother. She whispers into the phone for a few seconds, then angrily snaps her phone shut. Without making eye contact, she packs up her stuff and is gone. I thought about reporting him anyway, but technically I was the victim, yet I wasn't feeling victimized at all, so I let it go. Only one other time did I see the lady at the beach again, and as she saw me, she again immediately packed up her stuff and again left. And it seems that committing a lien violation would result in more than just a slap on the wrist. This Richmond police chief actually got jail time for it. So this deputy in the story knew he was in some big trouble if he didn't listen to OP. Karen rages when I snatch her phone after she was filming a dying woman. A few years ago, I was on a flight from London to Sydney when an older woman, maybe 70, suddenly collapsed in the aisle. The flight attendants rushed over to her and checked her pulse, and determined she doesn't have one, and commenced CPR. People are standing up to see what is happening, and a few people start to film. At this point, the flight crew have brought out a defibrillator, and have had to remove the dying woman's shirt to use it on her. Myself and a few other people tried to stand around them to block the view, and give the poor woman some dignity in this horrible moment. The flight crew were naturally panicking, but remaining professional. One flight attendant is asking people to stop filming, but they don't. The closest person to me was Karen, and she had her phone moving at all angles to try and get some footage of the poor woman on the floor. I snatched her phone out of her hands and called her a disrespectful and she instantly started screeching that I had stolen her phone. The flight attendants weren't paying any attention to what she was saying, as they clearly had more important things to focus on. She then grabbed the flight attendant who was assisting with first aid by the arm and told them I had stolen her phone. I didn't want to cause more drama for the poor flight attendant who was so flustered, so I threw her phone down on her seat. The lady collapsed shortly before we landed, so once we had landed, we all had to wait on the plane while the ambulance crew boarded, and commenced CPR and eventually took her off the flight. While we were waiting, Karen said, "Can we get off the plane? I want to go home. I've had a long flight and I'm tired." I wish I'd thrown her phone out of the plane if I could have. And that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.